All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brianna Walker. I am the president of our Union County Wildlife Chapter. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We have mostly people online tonight. So hopefully we'll have some more people jump in throughout the evening or show up here at the Agricultural Center. I did want to remind everyone of a few of the events that we have coming up. So this Saturday, we will be at the Monroe Fall Festival. We will be raffling off 3 rain barrels, and we are selling raffle tickets. So stop by and see us. We also will be having a native plant sale. I can't remember all of the plants that we have.
It would be purple coneflower. We have wild bergamot or bee balm, and we also have Stokes aster. And then as a special prize, if you want to play spin the wheel, you could potentially win Amsonia, which is Eastern blue starflower.
Yeah, so we're also going to have a prize wheel that will have some easy questions and difficult questions for adults and kids. So we'll be giving away prizes throughout the day too, and talking to people about wildlife and native plants. So be sure to stop by. That's from 11 to 5 on Saturday. And then October 25th, we'll be at Stalloween at Stallings Municipal Park. And we will be handing out milkweed seeds to kids as well as candy. We'll have both. And then November 8th, we are doing a habitat cleanup at Cane Creek Park from 9 to 12 around the Schweinitz. I hope I said that right. Sunflower field. And
some in my yard, so yes, and
awesome.
they're up like this.
Yeah, so we'll be cleaning them up, or cleaning up invasive species. So Japanese stiltgrass, I know, is out there, some privet on November 8th, so that we can help those sunflowers. And then November 11th, our next presentation here at the Agricultural Center is all about bats. And then December 6th, we will have a bird walk here at the Ag Center. So that will be back on our trails on the Carolina Heritage Trail. But I will go ahead and turn it over to Annie to get started.
Yeah, and so thank you all for tuning in, for zooming in. Actually, we have a couple of folks here. Hi, thank you for actually coming in. You get the benefit of getting to see this stuff. My insect collection, well, some of it anyway. I have lots more, but I only put a few out to make a point, and I'll get to that in a minute. But my name's Annie Howell, and I'm a volunteer for the Union County Wildlife Chapter. And tonight's presentation is going to be about creepy crawlies, wicked bugs of the Piedmont. And it's not necessarily, let me preface before I do the presentation, wicked bugs meaning that all insects are bad or wicked bad. You're going to hear me say wicked like 1,000 times, so I apologize ahead of time. But basically, 95 to 97% of the insects that you find in your backyard habitat or just around on this earth, let's put it that way, I'll be bold and say that, are actually wicked good bugs. They're all beneficial in some way, shape, or form. It's that 3 to 5% that give everybody else a bad rep. So it's the one, I'm going to talk about some of those that are actually found here in our area. And it may surprise you as to which ones that I actually picked as part of this program. So stay tuned. But anyway, the thing is that I'm going to talk about both wicked good and wicked bad bugs today. And not just insects, but also spiders, some spiders. So we'll talk about that. So let's share my screen and then we can get going. I'll let Brianna, my visual technologist here, help me.
I was like, where did it go?
There we go. We good? There we go. We good? Oh,
No,
screen.
that doesn't look like the Piedmont.
That went to sleep.
Oh no, I don't know what happened.
Although I like that picture.
Yeah.
That's my screen.
Can you online actually see it?
It looks good online, yeah.
It's good online. Oh, it's just not good in here.
You gotta duplicate presenter mode or something.
It's on your second screen.
Yeah, hold on.
I know it's a new laptop, brand new laptop, folks. I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm using it. I was so
Sonia, do you know where you go to do
I'm
that?
used to my old laptop. I am clueless when it comes to this one.
And I don't see the option down here.
Is it, what if we just click on that? No,
Well,
same
that's
thing.
what it's on, but it's just
Okay,
not showing up
I
there.
got you. Okay. All right, well, I'll just keep talking while you figure this out. Okay, so basically, I'm gonna talk today about the importance and significance of insects and spiders in general. And there's so many different insects that I could talk about that we would not have time. It would take a full year, every minute of every day for a full year to even touch the tip of the iceberg as to insects and spiders that we find across the globe. So I'm focusing specifically on ones that are found here in the Piedmont of North Carolina or at least in the state of North Carolina. So these are insects that you're gonna find in your backyards and in your gardens just every day. If you go out and look for them, you will find them. But first, let's talk about some wicked biology. And that's basically just to talk about what actually makes an insect and what makes it a pest versus a beneficial insect. And these are just some definitions that I took off of the internet. And basically beneficial insects are deemed as such from a human perspective, as are insect pests, whether they be insects or spiders. And again, we'll go through the biology of what makes those two categories of animals different from each other and also why they're so important. But all of this, whether they're beneficial or pests, is from just a human perspective. We humans think we are all that in a bag of chips. We're the ones who decides what's a wildflower and what's a weed, basically. So it's the same thing, same premise with what's going on in the insect world. Insects commonly regarded as pests, and everyone human would agree that this is the case. Anything that's parasitic, like lice, bed bugs, mosquitoes, flies, termites, things that do damage to structures, and also destroy agricultural goods, that's also considered a pest. And there's a lot of insects that fit into those categories. However, again, it's a very small percentage of the totality of insects and spiders that are around the globe, not just here in the Piedmont. So basically, what is an insect? And so this goes back to like second grade, insect, what are the three body parts? They are all part of the animal kingdom, just like us. We're part of the mammal classification, okay? They're cousins to shrimp, lobsters, spiders, and scorpions, but more closely related to lobsters and shrimp, believe it or not. They all have distinct body parts. They have an exoskeleton, which is a hard outer shell casing, 3 body segments, a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, 3 pairs, not 4, of jointed legs for 6 total legs, where spiders and arachnids have 4 pairs or 8 total legs. They have antennae. Most of them have wings, although there is a small percentage of insects in this category that do not have wings. And they have either chewing or sucking mouth parts. And that also distinguishes which genus and class of insects there are. This is the actual, I love this because this took me back to grade school. I absolutely love this chart. And so what we're doing is we're talking about, here's insects, okay? So they are more closely related to crab, shrimps, and lobsters and barnacles than they are to spiders, ticks, and scorpions, okay? These guys are a totally different classification of animal, and we'll go through that in a little bit. But mammals, as you can see, where are we? All the way over here, So we're a very small classification compared to all the other living organisms that are on the earth. So it's just interesting how we deem ourselves, at the top of the apex, where when we get to actual total biomass on this earth, insects have us beat 1,000-fold, millionfold. I got this snippet of information from the Smithsonian Institute, and it is very, very powerful as far as a statement, where they compare to how many different types of living insects there are in the world. And they surmise that there's 900,000 different kinds. However, they believe that that is not all of them that have been classified. There's probably 2/3 more of that have not been classified, that are unknown, or could be something, a small difference within a known species, but should have a scientific different classification. So it is estimated that there are some 10 quintillion individual insects alive on this earth today. In the United States, the number of described species, now described, these are ones that we know of and have been named and classified, 91,000 species. It's estimated that the ones that are not described or classified, etc., is estimated at 73,000. So that's in addition to that 91,000 insect species, okay? So just so you know, that's how many insects are on this earth that are out and about every day as we go about our business and whatever. They are well above as far as the amount of actual individuals on this earth than we can ever imagine to be as far as humans. And I just thought that was very interesting. And then the largest number of species in the United States, the actual biggest one is beetles, followed by flies, then ants, bees, and wasps, and then last but not least are moths and butterflies, which is the smallest classification of insects here in the United States. So I just thought this was mind-blowing. This is a picture of an actual display. I believe it was at the Science Museum in Raleigh, if I'm not mistaken. And that shows you in a bar graph the difference, the disparity in actual individuals, insects, okay? And again, that number is not accurate, okay? Here's mammals. Right here, we're tiny, real tiny. Okay, reptiles have us beat. And you know who else has us beat? Frogs, amphibians. So there are more of those other living species on this planet than there are humans or mammals in general. So we are just the very small part of what's going on in this world. And this was an interesting fun fact. There are more than 200 million insects for each human on the planet. And the New York Times claimed that the world holds 300 pounds of insects for every single pound of human weight. That to me is just the funnest fact that I've ever been able to find about insects. And you can see I'm getting all excited because that is just unbelievable to me. And that's probably just an estimate. I mean, if there are insects that they don't know about, you know, they're not taking that into account. So I just think that's really interesting. Spiders is a whole different animal. As if we go back to that animal kingdom chart that we saw, they are in the phyla Arthropoda, and then they are in the chelicerates category class arachnid. And here's what makes them up as what classifies them as an arachnid. Typically have two body segments, although there are some that have just one, which would be the harvestman, or AKA the daddy long legs. 4 pairs of legs for 8 total. Now this is in the adult, because some nymphs or young spiders, mites and ticks have 6, but we'll get to that later. They do not have wings or antennae, which makes it a very distinct difference between insects in general. They have very simple eyes, and they usually have 4 pairs. Most insects have very compound eyes, which means they have very many facets. So it makes them very, very good at dodging us swatting at them and or trying to smash them or what have you. So a lot of insects, and including spiders, if you were to compare the two, they say that spiders have less where insects have better eyesight than spiders. Although I work on a farm and I'm telling you, those spiders are pretty darn good at seeing me coming. They definitely move out of the way. And most of them can spin silk for capturing prey, although not all of them. Some of them are ambush predators. So this is what makes them very different from the insect category. Here's just a nice little chart I just threw on there just so you can see the actual physical attributes. You know, the 2 body parts, the 8 legs. These are not legs. Those are actually palps, which they use to feel. And so there's just a lot of differences in their body makeup. And today, I love this chart too. We're actually going to talk about spiders and acarid, these 2 classifications, so that this way we can keep it small, because we could, like I said, we could be here forever. We're not going to talk about scorpions or anything like that because they're not native here to the Piedmont. So but they are cool nonetheless. Cool wicked bugs. Okay, so we're going to talk about wicked good bugs first. And for those of you who are actually in the room with me, my insect collection, the part of it is set up to make a visual cue that these are the wicked good bugs. These are the wicked bad bugs. So you get to see how the disparity is of how many more bugs are beneficial versus ones that are not. And this isn't even real. This is a really good Halloween decoration that works. But so we want to talk about the wicked good bugs first, and they're gnarly, but they are beneficial in their own way. My personal favorite is actually the assassin bug. I think I like it just for the name. I mean, it really is just that. It is an assassin. It's very quiet, very stealthy, although it is large. Could potentially be a very large insect, and I do have one in a jar here up on the table, but that's a small specimen compared to some of the ones that I've seen out in the garden in my farm where I work. Wheel bugs or assassin bugs, same insect, just a different common name. And that's to refer to the cogs that looks like the spiky portion on its back. Now, the interesting thing about these, they can get to be about 2 inches in length, and because they are an insect, they do have wings, so they do fly. I have seen them fly, and they're not very adept at flying, so you do need to duck. But they are excellent predators, excellent predators. The photographs that I have here are of the egg mass, and the nymphs are actually photographs that I had taken of an egg mass that I had in my garden. So I have a very healthy population of them out in my backyard. And every time I see one, I'm very excited because that means that they're still going strong in my tiny ecosystem that is my backyard. They do prey on a wide variety of insects, so they do keep that balance of good versus evil in at least my backyard and yours as well. They prey on aphids, which is every gardener, rose lover, daylily lover, is bane of their existence, caterpillars, beetles, and other insects, and do not handle them. They may think that you are prey and they could potentially puncture you. They actually do have not chewing mouth parts, but a sucking mouth part that is like a needle. And it's actually, do you have a pointer on this thing? The little part, if you see this is a caterpillar right here, a wood-boring caterpillar. This is its mouth part right here. And it's very needle-like, and it is intended to be very formidable because it needs to puncture through the hard exoskeleton that is, oh, what did I do? Sorry. Through the hard exoskeleton of its prey. So, oh yeah, there we go.
So they can see it online too.
Yes. Okay. So as I was saying, where did my mouse or there it goes. Okay. So here's the caterpillar and here's the mouth part. And so just don't pick it up because it could potentially think that you are prey. And it will puncture, your hand. They will bite. Coloring on this, you can see the difference, like from when they're a young insect called a nymph. They tend to be black and red. They resemble, red in nature usually means warning. And they are very distinct when you see them because it is very bright, very bright red. So if you see them, there are some imposters that do camouflage themselves when they're young to look like assassin and wheel bugs. So don't be fooled, but when in doubt, leave them alone just in case they are the predator that you really do want. Very cool insect to have in your garden. Soldier beetles, aptly named. They are cousins to the firefly, and they do look a lot like the typical firefly. They are a little bit larger than the firefly tends to be. However, they are terrific pollinators as an adult, but they are very predaceous and a really good predator as a larva, which looks almost like a worm, which is this black little caterpillar type looking thing here. Underneath here, you can't see it because of the sand. There's actually its legs, so you can kind of see the legs, but not all that well. But they do live in the ground, and so they do feed on other insect larvae and eggs that tend to ground dwell as well. And the adult beetles have been known to sometimes eat aphids. And in fact, this picture of the soldier beetle it's kind of a little blurry. It's mine, but it's on Queen Anne's lace. If you're looking to think about what type of flowers or things to put in your garden or plants to put in your garden, that would attract certain predators or wicked good bugs, things like that. Tansy, Queen Anne's lace, a lot of your native flowers, like the plants that the wildlife chapter is going to have for sale on this coming Saturday, are perfect examples of plants that you want to put in your gardens to draw in those adult wicked good predators, because their larvae or their young are usually the ones that are very predaceous and eat a lot of other insects. Another wicked good, I'm not going to say insect, arachnid, is the spider. I've had a lot of questions lately about the writing spiders, commonly known a couple of different yellow garden spider. They're part of the orb weaver family of spiders, and that really just refers to their beautiful webs that they make. And their webs are absolutely perfect when they're pristine and in the morning first thing before anything gets in there and wrecks them. But what you will notice too is our garden spiders that are here in very native and very prevalent, especially this time of year. You'll notice that zigzaggy stabilimentum that they put in their web. And it's usually, this picture is just of the bottom part of the web, but it's usually from the center up and down. And there's still some speculation as to why that's in the web. Everything from it's to deter birds from flying into it, to stability, to whatever, but scientists really don't know what its purpose is. Now, if you're a twisted mind like me, the first thing I heard when I moved down here, because I was so enamored with how big these spiders can potentially get, out at the farm that where I work, they're our goon squad. We have them everywhere, and they are huge at this time of year. All of the spiders that we have are female also at this time of year. So whenever you see a spider in the fall, it's a female, for a couple of different reasons. Most of them eat the males after they mate. It's not just the praying mantid that does that. Some spiders do as well, most of them actually. But they do literally hang around all fall until they lay their egg casings, and then they die. So this particular spider, the Agrippia, or the typical golden or writing spider, is the one that Charlotte's Web was based on, the children's story. This is our Charlotte, and she is native here to the Piedmont, and she is probably one of the best examples of a beautiful orb weaver that we have here that's very prominent. And again, at this time of year, they're easy to find because they're huge. They're very big. The first time I moved down here and I saw one because I was so impressed with the size, someone had told me, oh, well, that's a writing spider. And, you know, they'll write your name in the web at night and then they'll come get you. You know, and I was just like, oh my God, that's the coolest story I've ever heard. Absolutely not true, but still, it's very interesting. But yes, it is, in fact, an insect that Charlotte's Web is based on. The reason I picked this wicked good spider is because not only is it native here, but there has been a lot of buzz, and I use that term for, you know, pun, an insect pun. The Joro spider is a big thing that has now made its way into Western North Carolina. The Joro spider, I actually have pictures here down at the bottom corner through our native bug expert at NC State, Matt Bertone. It looks very similar, however, different enough that you can tell them apart. NC State, DNA, they are looking for any citizen scientists to report if they see the Joro spider. They're just trying to get a handle on how far and how quickly they're spreading, but they are in fact in Western North Carolina. They are not here in the Piedmont as of yet. Known best recently for the quote ballooning spider, that they can fly. A lot of spiders actually do that. The Joro spider is not the inventor of this. Most spiderlings, when they hatch, will put out a string of silk and then use the wind to carry them to different places so they can set up a web of their own to take them away from where their sisters and brothers and brethren are. The Joro spider does the same. It just tends to be that it propagates itself much more quickly than some of our native spiders. So folks here in North Carolina are just trying to get a handle on what it is, but there's a picture of it down here in the corner. To me, there's an obvious difference, but to the layperson who's squeamish about spiders, they may look exactly the same. Anyway, the interesting thing is the upper corner here, my little picture, can I move that down? Yes, that's a picture of its egg sac. And they are very cool looking. They're about a little smaller, or about the size of a ping pong ball. And they typically put them up at a corner of where their web is. And the other cool notable thing about the writing spider is that they will keep their web in the same place pretty much. Once they set up, they'll stay there unless they're constantly being moved or interrupted, like their web being taken down. A lot of folks ask about why their web always looks so perfect every day. It's if they don't catch anything either, some spider species will actually eat their web and then put out a new one the following overnight for the following morning. So they do live for almost a year. So they are very prevalent for a good part of the year, except you don't normally notice them until fall because this is when they're their biggest. And each egg sac can contain anywhere from 300 to 1,400 eggs. We tend to move those around at the farm. If they're in a spot where we don't want them, but there's a spot that we do need spiders next year, we will take their egg sacs and we will move them. So that this way we can set up a population in an area in one of our high tunnels or in greenhouses that we would need them because they're fabulous predators. I think that's enough about writing spiders. I love them a lot. Okay, so wicked bad insects, and I didn't talk about spiders because there was enough wicked bad insects that I'm just probably not going to have enough time to get through. The interesting thing is they do have some dangerous potential. Not that they are definitely dangerous, but they could be, and there's a lot of that disparity where a lot of humans, and again, as we went through the definition of beneficial versus pest insects, it's all from a human perspective. So if you're a human that has zero tolerance for insects of any kind, then obviously everything's a pest, right? So what I did was I picked the most common, quote, pests, ones that are actually a nuisance and ones that actually could potentially do some harm to humans, livestock, other animals, etc. Mosquitoes. And I know this is one you're like, oh, I was wanting something more exotic or something like that. Well, these are exotic. The Asian tiger mosquito is not native to the United States, but it is very, very prevalent here. The northern house mosquito, those are the two that are most prevalent here in North Carolina. And the interesting thing about mosquitoes is their life cycle is incredible. It is so short and so fast that it is almost next to impossible to eradicate them. So any human who thinks that they're going to have whatever spray organization come in and do their backyard on a monthly basis and be done with mosquitoes, you are sadly mistaken. It is not going to happen. A mosquito egg, the Crawlies, which is the northern house, takes 7 to 10 days to develop into an adult. That's it. 7 to 10 days. So if you don't do anything to interrupt that life cycle as far as the larva and the eggs, then all bets are off. The sprays only take care of adults. They don't take care of any of the larvae, and we'll get through that in a little bit. They're daytime feeders, that particular one. The Asian tiger is more at dusk, where you start to, and I see them more than I do the house mosquito at where I am. So the Asian tiger mosquito is very distinct because it does have all that white striping on it, and they do tend to be more aggressive in the dusk hours. Females are the only ones that bite, and that is because they need a blood meal for them to produce their eggs and feed their young. So it's not the guys, it's only the girls that are the actual pests in this equation. Prevention. Apply insect repellent. I can't stress this enough to yourself. If you're going to be outside and you can't wear sleeves or long pants or socks and shoes because it's hot, humid, whatever, then use insect repellent. That is your best defense if you're not doing anything, or say you're on a hike or you're out camping or you don't have any control over the mosquito population in the area that you're going to. The least thing you can do is protect yourself, and that means using insect repellents. Also use proper clothing to make sure that they can't bite you. That is definitely the best approach. If you really want to put a dent in the mosquito populations, then you need to focus on source reduction, which is where they breed. And basically, I call it tip and toss, pitch and dump, whatever you want to call it. And that is any standing water that you have, anything that collects water. And there's a lot of things around your home that you may not think is going to have that much water. They can reproduce in less than a teaspoon of water. So they don't need a lot of water to lay eggs and to have wigglers, or what their little larvae are called. They don't need a lot. If it's completely dry, they can go dormant until they get rain or water that they need. So the next time you water your plants, you could be reviving, the ones that have gone dormant. The idea is to eliminate as much water as possible for lengths of time and make sure that you do it diligently. I have corrugated downspout extensions off of my downspouts for my rain gutters. You would be shocked at how much water sits in there because it's corrugated. I take them off and I have to shake them out to get the water out of there, because that I found, and this was recent, I was this old to figure out that that's where they were coming from. To make sure that there was not, that was the source. So once I got rid of that, I drastically reduced the population out in my garden. This was a great source, the Buzz on Mosquitoes through NC State Extension. There's lots of great information in that article. I took a lot of this information from it. But you do need to check it out if you want more information as to the various types of mosquitoes and what their specific needs are for reproduction, so that this way you can interrupt that cycle. If any of you online here know, or if you don't know Doug Tallamy or are not familiar with him, you need to get to know him. He is, if not the biggest proponent of native plants for replacing your landscape exotic plants with native plantings. His book called Bringing Nature Home, it changed me. It really did. It was just such good information in that book as to why we want to consider taking out all of the exotic plantings that we have that landscapers use, or if you've moved into a new home, a lot of times they use plantings that are pretty, or cultivars that are, you know, bred for specific flower color or leaf color, but a lot of them don't do any good. They do absolutely no good to promote a healthy, well-balanced ecosystem. They don't serve as a host. They sometimes have flowers that are sterile, so they don't produce nectar, so they're not a food source. So there's a lot of things, or they come from another part of the world, so they don't support any of the insects that we have that are beneficial in our area. He is the guy, and that book, Bringing Nature Home, is just so important as far as if you're looking to make a change, that is where you should start. He also has a website that's called, oh, and I just went blank. Oh, a Homegrown National Park. That's his website. And he actually did a challenge, and it's called the Mosquito Bucket of Doom. And I have totally embraced this. I loved it. And I think it's a great idea. It's something that is just so simple, and it actually works. The Mosquito Bucket Challenge was just to get people to understand that the mosquito fogging is not doing its service. It is not doing you any real benefit. It's temporary, and there's nothing that you can do about it unless you change that cycle by getting to the larval stage or the eggs. You may kill a few adults, but you're also doing more harm in that the residuals from these sprays don't discriminate. So basically, they're going to take out a lot of your beneficial insects as well. Not to mention the fact that now you're fogging your entire yard. You're out there, your children are out there, and your pets are out there. Not to mention if you're growing your own food, you do not want to be eating that stuff after you spray it. Okay, so do not fog. Take the challenge, do the mosquito bucket. And the key is to get to the larva before they hatch. And when you're planting native plants, as he says here, you know, you're undermining all of the things that you're trying to do by doing that. So this is how it works. So basically, you set up a bucket. Now, I didn't write the whole recipe of what you needed to make this bucket of doom, but I'll give it to you quickly. He does have a video, which is very, very good. He has a YouTube video that explains all of this, and he actually shows you what the bucket looks like. Take a bucket, any size. He recommends a 5-gallon bucket. Fill it with water, about 1/3 to half of the way. Add some garden debris, leaves, grass clippings, whatever, just stuff. Just throw it in there. Put in the most important part of this equation is those mosquito dunks. It's a larvicide. It is BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. I think I got it right. And basically what that does is you're creating a habitat for the adult mosquito to go and lay her eggs. However, it's a trap, hence the doom part, because the larvicide is in the water. You're putting your mosquito dunk in there. So what you're doing is you take this bucket and put it out of the way where you're most coming into contact with mosquitoes, giving them a place to lay their eggs, and then you're killing the eggs before they hatch. The adults don't live very long, so you're interrupting that cycle by getting rid of the eggs and the larva. And then, you know, he explains it in a lot more detail in his video, but definitely he goes through the same thing, you know, tip and dump, Go through, change your water in your bird baths. Again, 7 to 10 days, you have a whole new crop of mosquitoes. So every 2 days, you should be changing your water. Hummingbird feeders, if you have your downspouts, anything, just every 2 days, you should be going and checking if we've had rain or any kind of thing in there, moisture in there, just to make sure, so that this way you're constantly interrupting that cycle. Okay, ticks and mites, another wicked bad bug, but I shouldn't say bug. They are actually in the spider family, but ticks and mites are actually, again, very, very prevalent, very small percentage of the insects or critters that we have in our backyard that actually could potentially have some dangerous, they can be very potentially dangerous to us humans and pets and animals, as far as livestock and thing as well. The most common ones are the ones there at the top, chiggers. Anybody who's been in an area where they've gotten bit up by chiggers knows it and does not want to go through that again. House dust mites are probably one of the most common species of mites that we all come into contact with on a daily basis, believe it or not, whether we like it or not, it's the truth. And then dog ticks and Lone Star ticks are probably the two of all the different tick species that we have here, the most prevalent here in the Piedmont. The NC State publication, Mites That Bug People, is a really good publication. I took a lot of the information from it, as well as some of the photographs, but they have break down each particular type of mite that we come into contact with, all the information about their life cycles and where they tend to be found. Definitely worth a look if you want more information on that. A lot of folks don't know a lot about mites, and they are in fact probably more troublesome than ticks are, because we come into contact with them a lot more often than we do ticks. Everybody knows about ticks, so we take our steps to prevent any tick bites or things like that. But mites, very, very, very small, tend to be in very, very large numbers. So we tend to come into contact with them a lot more. However, not all the time is it something that's going to be a pest to us, like biting and things like that, but they're just prevalent, very prevalent. Another good publication is Ticks and Tick-Borne Diseases. That one goes through all the different tick types that we have here. There's actually 4 or 5. And it does talk about the dog and the Lone Star tick as well, and the different diseases and things that they can transmit, which is why ticks are very prevalent, as far as, beware, to the average Joku public. We do need to be very aware of ticks, especially if you're going out for hikes, wooded areas. You don't even have to be that far from home to come into contact with ticks. If you have deer and mice, believe it or not, in and around your home, they are carriers of a lot of these ticks. And the interesting thing is the tick life cycle, again, very short. They hatch in about 2 weeks. And each tick can lay thousands of eggs, a single tick. So getting to the understanding of where they tend to lay their eggs and where they tend to hide, that's the key, is know where they are. So this way you can target that specific area, whether you be spraying or putting down bait or something like to that effect. Highly recommend it. The American dog tick can spread Rocky Mountain spotted fever here in North Carolina. We have had some instances of it. And the Lone Star tick here can spread Lyme disease, which is a very, very, very prevalent up in the Northeast, but it has spread as far as into the Southeast areas as well. So, and that's no joke. Lyme disease is no joke. As Rocky Mountain spotted fever as well. These are, so you need to, protect yourself and check yourself. Prevention, as I just said, stay on wide, clear paths if you're going to go hiking, things like that. Avoid overgrown, weedy areas. If you have acreage, make sure you mow or cut down tall grasses and undergrowth certain distances from your home or where people and pets and things, especially pets and livestock, are going to be. because they just are not looking for a human host. They will most likely look for other mammals as before us to use as a host. Tuck your pants into your socks, tuck your shirt into your pants. If you're wearing gloves, tuck your sleeves into your gloves. If you're working out in those areas, and wear light colored clothing. So this way you can spot them very easily when you're doing your tick check. Most commercial insect repellents are effective, and I say commercial because a lot of the homegrown things don't tend to work very well. DEET, DEET, tends to be the most effective active ingredient in tick repellents, as well as for mites and other types of pests. I know it was taken off the market for a while, and then it was brought back because it's the only thing that really works. You know, there are ways to check for camping, or even you can use that if you have acreage out in an area where you're going to be. Just take a white piece of cloth. It doesn't necessarily have to be flannel, and just basically drag it through the grass and shrubs, and then you just check it and see if you have it. If you got any on the cloth, then you know there's ticks in that area. When you have been in a tick infested area, you may not even know it. I love how they just assume that you're going to know that. But the thing is, assume that you are going to come into contact with ticks if you're going to be hiking, camping, you know, and even out in your backyard. I had an outbreak. I had a cluster of them in my backyard, where I had one of my rain barrels. And like every time I had to do my forensic, you know, epidemiology and say, okay, well, every time I'm in this corner, I have a tick on me. And it's because they had a nesting site in there. And so once I sprayed that particular area, I didn't have any issues. So you do need to just assume that you're going to come into contact with them, as well as mites and chiggers. Check yourself frequently. Make sure that if you're outside working, I mean, I have to check myself quite often, even at the farm where I work, because we do have areas that are not mowed, that we leave natural on purpose. And again, it's a habitat for everything good, but also there are some bad guys in there as well. Checking yourself often, and don't do it yourself. If you have a buddy or somebody with you, I know that when I'm working out in my wooded areas or out where my hedges are bigger, I always ask my husband, tip check, you know, my hair, with places where I can't see. It lessens the chance of you having a tick on you, and or having the time to attach and actually be a problem. Now, a tick has to be attached. I thought this was interesting. I did not know this. At least 6 hours in order to transmit disease organisms. So if you catch them quickly, like if you find them, even though they are attached, if you get them off very quickly, 9 times out of 10, you won't have an issue. So you just need to make sure that you're checking yourself so that you get them quickly. The longer the tick is attached, the greater the chances are for the disease organisms to be transmitted. And there are blood tests and things like that that you can take to see if you've come into contact with them, if you've had any pathogens introduced into your system. Going back to chiggers, the most prevalent one here is that one, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. They have the little, you know, speaker, and I tried it a couple of times, and it's not going to work. It is named after somebody, though. It's a very small red mite, and the red color is its natural color. It's not from blood, you know, that it bites you or whatever. It's not. It actually is its natural pigment. They typically tend to find themselves on animals, reptiles, actually turtles, things like that tend to be carriers of chiggers and stuff. And they can stay attached to the skin for several days, but on humans, they usually come off after a few hours. Unlike their nastier cousins, scabies, they don't burrow. Chiggers do not burrow into the skin, they just bite. And then what they do is they actually secrete enzymes that make you itch. It's similar to the mosquito. Scabies is different, where they actually burrow into your skin. Or into animals, things like that. chiggers themselves tend to actually, if you've gotten bites, they're usually around your sock line or around your waistline. If you're working in, sometimes they're in barns, straw, things like that. You'll get them on your arms or your abdomen. So again, always wear sleeves or at least wear insect repellent. Because the itching can be pretty intense and it starts not right away. It says here 3 to 6 hours after, and a dermatitis, like some type of rash, develops in about 10 to 16 hours. So you may not even realize it initially. The mites are so tiny. They're under a millimeter in size. I mean, if you're not into metrics, it's tiny, trust me. The bites, you can see the ruler there, you know, they're pretty intense and they do swell up. So very similar of a reaction to like a mosquito, but not necessarily as big, the bites, but more numerous, let's put it that way. So prevention. Fortunately, the mites that we commonly encounter in North Carolina do not transmit diseases that affect people. Some actually are beneficial by feeding on decaying matter, etc., while others are predators of insects and other mites. There are thousands of species of parasites, but they're not necessarily ones that are going to do much harm for us. The harm really comes from the species that cause allergic reactions, such as asthma attacks in people, and these are more like house mites, ones that we find indoors. And it's not necessarily the mite itself, it's actually their excrement, which is their poop. And when they shed their skin, as they grow, their dander is actually what causes a lot of the allergic reactions. So it is a cultural thing. If you want to get rid of your mites, if you have somebody, I have an asthmatic that lives with my husband, cleaning is the key, and to be very specific on where you clean and how you clean and what you use to clean, as far as sucking up dust, dander, etc. Mites are usually the thing that, again, a lot of folks is not their go-to for a pest of, hey, these bites are itchy, I don't know what this is. That's not their first go-to guy as to who the suspect is, but usually they are. So for personal protection, again, use the insect repellents if you know you're going to be out in an area where there potentially will be, which is practically everywhere. And DEET is probably your best bet. Okay, I think this is the last one, but anyway, I'm doing pretty good. I'm only at 55 minutes. Okay, cockroaches, or AKA palmetto bugs. That was another euphemism I was introduced to when I moved down here from the north. I'm sorry, that's a roach. Okay. Don't pretty it up by saying it's a palmetto, but no, it's a roach, okay? And there are a lot, and they can be very large. The largest one is the American cockroach, which is a misnomer because not native to the Americas. It actually was brought here on ships like the Mayflower. They came over on the Mayflower, basically. The German cockroach was also introduced. But those are the ones that tend to be more prevalent in urban and inside structures, like urban areas and inside structures. American cockroaches are pretty prevalent outdoors. The article that I read to get this information actually said that 9 times out of 10, it's a German cockroach that's in the house. And I'm like, no, not necessarily true. If there's a way for them to get in, they will get into your home. Whether they be a German American or a wood roach or even the Australian. Wood roaches are native to the Americas and tend to be fairly large. They will be over 1 inch in length, and these are ones that you will typically find out in woods. I have a lot of wooded areas around my house, so yes, I see them quite often. The good thing is I have lots of frogs and toads and snakes and lizards, so they take care of everybody, and I don't have an issue with them. Although they can be a bit disconcerting because they're big, you know, and they do fly, okay? They are insects, they have wings, and they can fly. So again, they choose not to because they're very quick on their feet, but they can. So don't be shocked if you go to swat one and it flies at you or flies away. Prevention, again, an integrated approach, improve sanitary conditions and reduce the amount of food. Like if you have them in your house, they're usually there for the food, as is any other living organism. Everything has to eat. So if you have mice in your crawl space, it's because they're there for either weather and or food. If you have snakes, it's because they're there for the food. That means you have something else that the snake is interested in, etc. It goes on and on and on. It goes the same for insects and spiders. If there's food there, they will be there, and roaches are no different. One article I read actually called humans a roving feast, because we leave food, crumbs, and whatever everywhere. Whether we're the neatest person or not, we're leaving some trace of food behind when we're eating. And we are also food for them. Our dander, hair, skin that we slough off, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's potentially food for insects, whether it be mites or cockroaches as well. So sanitary conditions, reduce clutter. If you have issues within your home, make sure that you give them fewer places to hide and reproduce. And this article here, Know Your Enemy, Cockroaches, aptly named. That is a really good article. And that, I think that was the one that called us the roving feast. But he puts down, you know, exactly where they tend to hide based on which species of cockroach it is. So if you have issues, identify it, and then you'll know where to go for your plan of attack and how to attack. Physically change your environment to limit the ways they can access your home. Caulk, block cracks around electrical outlets, eliminate water leaks. If you have water leaks, to give roaches access to the moisture that they need, because there are certain species that need it to be moist. Use pesticide dusts. And these two particular ones that they recommend or suggest, actually, boric acid and diatomaceous earth. The diatomaceous earth we use quite liberally out at the farm where I work. There is a food grade version of this. And it's available, readily available at like feed stores and things like that, because you can give it to animals. It's a very fine white powder, so don't dust it on a windy day, or if you're going to do inside, you know, be very sparingly as to where you put it, because you can inhale it. It's like eating a powdered donut and inhaling at the same time, not fun. Place pesticide baits in areas where you see them. And then change them out, especially behind the refrigerator. If you have small ones, kids, pets, I have very curious cats. They're constantly doing things. So put it where they can't get to it. But this is a really good article, the NC State News, Know Your Enemy, Cockroaches. And a lot of the information that he got was actually from Dr. Kobe Shaw. And I actually went to his page as well, and he's got some great photographs and more information. I'm hoping I'm not going too fast. I mean, I'm trying to keep it to an hour, otherwise we could be here all night. Other resources that I used in the past for all types of various insect issues, whether it be identifying diagnostics for pest damage, insect pest damage. I know there are grass people out there. I am not one, but there's NC State lawn information, turf files, and then there's a lot of specific information on vegetable pests if you are growing your own food. And again, even though it says pest, that's not necessarily a true definition of what insect is doing the damage. It's just you think it's a pest because it's eating your stuff, so you deem it a pest. But it's probably, for example, carrots, fennel, dill, are all eaten by caterpillars that are actually black swallowtail caterpillars, larvae. So they are not pests per se, but they will eat your stuff. So know your enemy, first identify who it is that's eating or doing whatever damage that you want to figure out who it is before you take action. I have a caterpillar relocation program at the farm where I work. We have patches of parsley and dill for them. And then we have patches of parsley and dill for us to harvest and sell. So I'm constantly moving them over. And learn how to scout. That is probably your best defense, is learning how to scout your edibles, especially for eggs, for larval young, so that this way you know who it is, and then how to then combat that if you have to. If you don't have a problem, leave it. If you do, if you have zero tolerance, I have a very high tolerance for insects eating stuff, because everybody's got to eat. Okay, go ahead, eat. I just don't want to eat you. So I want to make sure that I get you off of my edibles. But if you have zero tolerance, learn how to scout. So this way you're not just nuking everything and taking out your predators as well as your pests. That's the best information I can give you, or tip I can give you. And another is on identifying them. Know your source of information. There's a lot of really bad information out on the internet as far as images. When you go through just searching by images, I was searching for mites and ticks popped up, but it's chiggers actually, and ticks kept popping up. Now ticks are a mite, but I was looking for chiggers, which is a specific mite. And even though I put in the scientific name, these other ticks kept popping up. And I'm like, dang it. So know your sources, make sure that you understand, in any university department of entomology in our area is the best bet. NC State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Florida, Texas A&M, all of those, Georgia. Did I say Georgia already? They all have Florida all have really great entomology information. Cornell is fantastic too, but they're up in the Northeast. So some of the things that they recommend or suggest don't necessarily apply to us, especially when it comes to life cycles and things like that. Very different environment as far as length of time and temperatures. So that's pretty much all I have. Hopefully I didn't go too quickly, that you were able to absorb some of this, at least through, osmosis, just by me bouncing things off your head. And hopefully you found it interesting. I know it wasn't shocking, because a lot of these things weren't exotic, but they are the pests, the wicked bugs that we have to deal with every day here in the Piedmont. Do we have a chat?
We do.
Okay. Ooh, lots of questions. Some may be answered. Sure.
Yeah, I want to know if cockroaches have a predator.
Yes. Absolutely.
Besides us.
Absolutely. Frogs, lizards, snakes, owls, you name it, birds.
So you're saying we just need to get more frogs, snakes, lizards?
Yes. So the takeaway is create a habitat where you have all those natural predators, and that you're not snuffing out your snakes, or, ew, because you have lizards in your garage. Just leave them be. They're taking care of the pests for you. Just let them go. Leave them be.
No.
Someone says Joro spiders are in Charlotte. There's one at Reedy Creek Nature Center.
Is it alive or dead? That's what I want to know. A Joro spider. Donna Bowles, I believe you posted Joro spiders are in Charlotte. There's one at Reedy Creek Nature Center. Is it alive or dead? Oh, someone asked about the kissing bugs. No, there are not, as far as I know. Someone else had sent that as well. And they are typically in the mountains. But the ones that we have here don't typically transmit kissing disease. Like if you read some of the books like I have there, I think it's Wicked Bugs by Amy Stewart. Those books are really, really good, by the way. She does a great job of giving you little snippets of information about all of these insects. And just, they don't really, a lot of the insects that we have here, we do have them, but they don't necessarily transmit disease, because we just don't have the disease that they're known for. Let's put it that way.
Donna says it's very much alive. And if it's
Really?
alive, first off, hey Donna. If it's alive, I mean, they are prolific. My parents are in Northeast Georgia in the Piedmont section.
Okay.
And they're everywhere.
Really?
Like my mom is constantly.
Yeah,
complaining
it's like,
about
and
them.
that's the big worry. So
Yeah.
North Carolina wants to know. So if you know, just report them through, you can even do it through the iNaturalist app as well. It says of the various cockroach varieties mentioned, which one is the quote palmetto bug? I've heard it used just liberally, like any roach. The biggest ones you can find, and it's typically the American or the woods roach, is usually the one that's spotted because the German is a little bit smaller. And I remember sitting on the deck at my in-laws beach house, and the girls would run around with their flip-flops and try to smash them, you know, because they would all come up through the deck, and I was just like, oh my God, this is nasty. They're everywhere. But yeah, that was my first introduction to the palmetto bug, but that's typically the one. Any other questions? Okay.
You mentioned that the Doro spider had made its way into western North Carolina. But I'm wondering if you mentioned, and I may have just missed it, where they are native to, and are they considered invasive?
Yes, they are invasive. They are not here from the United States. They came from Asia, and I believe, yeah, I'm not sure if it was China or another East Asian country. Most of the invasive pests that we've had here introduced to the United States have come from Asia, unfortunately, and a lot of time they come in packing material, you know, through shipping containers and things like that.
Well, and especially in the southeast, because
Correct.
our climates are very similar, so they
Correct.
can survive and thrive.
Yes, yes. Which is unfortunate for us here in the southeast because we do have that same climate. So, and the other unfortunate thing is we don't have a lot of the native predators that they do over in Asia and where they come from. So they're keeping them in check. Where here they're just running amok. So, you know, like the spotted lanternfly is my one bad, wicked bug that I have here. I actually have a specimen in a jar that a friend brought back from Maryland. It's dead. But it's interesting to see how quickly it's spreading, and it's spreading because it's people that are moving it from place to place. It's not that this thing is really migrating. It's because of us moving their egg sacs on wood, and they're very good at disguising themselves with their egg sacs. They're actually, I think NCDA, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe another state, has dogs that are being trained to sniff out their egg sacs so that they can scrape them off trees and things like that in areas that are known to be inundated with the spotted lanternfly. Yes.
Why don't owls and hawks and bluebirds eat the Juno spiders?
The Jaro spiders? They
Can you repeat the
it's just that their
question?
populations are so large that the predator, their numbers just don't match up within the amount of spiders. If they're anything like the writing spider, it could be anywhere from 300 to 1,400 eggs per one egg sac. So we know we don't have that many bluebirds or owls or whatever in that particular area just to take care of that one egg sac. So that's the problem, is there is that balance that shifted because there's so many individuals that need to get eaten, and there's just not enough things to eat it. Now, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's, you know, thinking that they're good eats, you know, as a human. I mean, people are eating cicadas, right? When they were having those big broods. I know they say it tastes like shrimp. No, I was not. Well, because they're so closely related to shrimp and lobsters. But I say that tongue in cheek because there was somebody who did a YouTube video, and you need to look it up if you really want to try it. Recipes with cicadas. Not the adults, not the crunchy ones, but the nymphs, with like you have to catch them before they hatch so that they're still soft. Yeah, no. I draw the line. I love bugs and insects, but no. Let's see. Of the various we went through that one. Okay, German cockroaches are also cause huge is that supposed to be infestations? Yes, they do. And because they do breed very quickly, and again, and that goes for every insect, they tend to have a very high individual rate as far as the amount of eggs per adult female that she can lay, and that's the problem. So if gone unchecked, or if maybe you don't notice it right away, you can have an infestation very, very quickly. Insects' life cycles are very, very short, and that's the key to their survival and why there are so many on this earth, like we talked about. Even the pesticides, we humans think we're so big and bad, and we're developing all these pesticides. They can become immune, or these pesticides can become ineffective in just a couple of years, because there's so many broods or life cycles that they go through that eventually they can just within a few years just become immune to it. So it's just, we need to think outside the box. We need to think of other ways, and physical ways, like Doug Tallamy's Bucket of Doom is a very easy, inexpensive way to try and combat breaking the life cycle, which is actually key, and to controlling some of these wicked bad bugs. Any other questions? Anybody? Okay.